afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to this week's training. Again, as normal, just want to do a quick technology check to make sure that you'll be able to see Nick, Terry, and me on your screen right now. And
hi, folks.
Hear us all as well. Nick, if you give us a hello, just to make sure your mic's working.
Hi, Musa. Afternoon to you.
Hello in the chat box. Let us know.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Don. Hi, Mala.
Hello.
Mr. Francis. Hello, buddy. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome.
Awesome. Perfect. Awesome. So yeah, welcome everybody. It is Thursday, 17th of June, 2 minutes past 3. And welcome to this week's session where, basically, every now and then we like to do these sessions where rather than us talking at you, teaching you on a particular topic, like to bring in, one of you guys, a client who's taken elements or, some of the things that we teach, put it in their own business and got results. Because, again, we've said numerous times, I think, it's one thing hearing it from us and
I actually wasn't aware.
Can you turn your mics off, guys?
Cool. Yeah, Terry and Nick, I think you'll be muted as well because it's muted everyone. So yeah, it's one thing hearing it from us, but I think it hits home better when you hear it from somebody who's actually doing it, living it, going through the exact same experiences that you have, probably having the same fears and concerns that you're having right now. So I think it's always good to learn from people like that. So yeah, with Nick's kindly said volunteered. We asked him, he said yes, to sort of share his journey. Again, if you've been joining these calls for a while, you would have seen Nick sort of go from, yeah, I guess, joined us doing, 100% contingency, had a point in the journey where just sort of hit, it's not saying rock bottom, but probably, those of you that know contingency, worked on a lot of roles, not to fill any, right? No money coming in, needed to shift the way he was doing. I think for a while, we always preach about exclusivity, retainers. Nick was, I guess, I'll be keenly interested to hear your thoughts, Nick, but Nick was brought into the idea, but didn't quite get how to communicate it, to clients to get them to buy in. Eventually he sort of got it and sort of had some really good successes since then. So I'm going to sort of break down the journey, what he's learned along the way, what worked, what didn't, and really, I guess, any advice that he could give to you guys who are sort of along the same path. So this will be useful for you if you're, either where Nick was and you're 100% contingency now, but you want to make the move to exclusivity or retained, or, perhaps that you're already there already, but you just want to, move faster, get even better results. I think there's going to be something in this sort of interview for everyone. So yeah, Nick, just for people that don't know you, can you just give us brief sort of roundup of who you are, what sector you work in, that sort of thing?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me and everybody turning up. Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, so I've been doing sales recruitment for 20 years. Can't believe it. It's sales into technology, and I have been all the time just doing contingent, just working, on fairly mid to senior levels, 50 to 150 base, 15 to 20%, working on preferred supply lists and so on. And the penny dropped. I think we were just saying, I think in November, I just said enough was enough, just having a lot of time wasted on roles where they pulled them, putting a lot of work and not doing it. So I wanted to understand retained. And it's a big change, but it's the best decision I ever made because I actually enjoy my job again. Yeah, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the journey. I do now. I didn't at the time, but it's been a brilliant journey so far.
Perfect. So again, just to go back to, I think you were just saying before we went live, you joined back in November time. Is that right? What was your motivation for, I guess, getting help from us in the first place? What was?
Well, there must have been a better way of getting cash in the door and making sure that I got, paid for the work I did. So I always thought retained was something that I would never be able to do because it just wasn't in my mindset. And actually, when I understood it and I understood what it meant, I really, really needed to apply it. And listening to you guys week in, week out, you know, what are you worth? You only charge what you're worth. You only, you know, self-esteem, you know, you're only going to put your stall out and say, well, I just do contingent. And I suppose the penny drop for me is when you say, have you ever asked for a retainer? And I hadn't. And I assumed I do recruitment. So, hey, Mr. Customer, why don't you say, would you like a retainer? And, you know, that's just dreamland. And I think I knew that was the way forward for me to be able to make more money. I set myself some big goals in revenue. You know, I set myself 2 retainers at 20K a month. And I thought, that's doable. How am I going to get there? And retainer is, you know, the only way to really know that you're going to, you know, you're going to definitely get that money, as opposed to, you know, just going, here's a brief, go fill, you know, if you find somebody great, if you don't, move on. And it was just too stressful, I think.
Okay, so just on that, I mean, you've said there that, you know, you knew that you wanted to go down the retained route. You just said the words like, that's the only way to know that you could hit your revenue goals. Yeah, I guess why is it that you think that? What was your thought process into
why retained?
Yeah,
because the commitment from the client, a down payment, I think you guys use, you know, and whether it's £2,000 or £5,000 or £10,000, I didn't really mind. For me, it was more, I understood that if they put a deposit down, as it were, then they were committed to help fill the role and that they'd signed it off and they did want to work with me and help them, you know, find the right person, and they really believed in me. And the bit I think I struggled with, which is really believing the message, saying, no, I can deliver this. Please, you know, give me this money to deposit, you know, as a retained deposit, and I'll do the rest. And that took me a long time to accept that I could do that. And I wasn't embarrassed, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it. And deal after deal and not making any deals. I didn't do any placements in Q1 this year. It never happened in 20 years. And I thought, Nick, just do it, get on with it, and just say to clients, this is what it is. If it's $3,000 as a down payment, even for like a 12 grand fee, try it and don't, you know, move from that. Don't give in. Don't do mates rates. Don't, you know, and that's what I've done all my 20 years. And I said no. And I was amazed when they went, all right, let's do it. And that was the turning point for me, where I just said, you got to ask and just stick to what you do. And to be honest, it's in your delivery when you ask for it, whether they believe you or not. That's what I found. And when that clicked and when I did it and I gave myself no other option, because it's so easy. You get a call saying, hey, Nick, got another role. There's 2 other agents, but you know, you've done it before. Why don't you just jump on it? No, I'm not doing it. Sorry, what? I'm not doing it. It's retained, and I've told you it's $3,000, and you know, I'll do the rest, but I don't work on contingent anymore. Do you understand? And then the penny really dropped, I think, for me as well, is when we did that training. I think I did the role plays, and you actually define the 2 differences between retained and contingent. And for me, that's when I went, okay, I need to explain it to my clients because they don't know. I was amazed. I really was amazed. I actually thought they did know the difference. And when you prepare your pitch to explain the difference between retained and contingent, they actually do listen. If you get it right, I promise you the clients will just go, okay, that makes perfect sense. But you've got to go through those steps and have your pitch ready. And I think when I got that right and I got my terms right, so the terms that I'm going to send to them on the retained, so I follow it up with an email, I've signed it saying, look, just waiting for your approval, let's go. They've got no option. I had a call yesterday. I was actually headhunting the candidate for a role, and he went, I actually took the call because I'm not looking to move. I'm looking to hire people myself. I wanted to hear how good you were. I just found myself pitching the retainer, and he was like, "Oh, we don't do it like that." I said, "Well, you've just told me it's taken a month and no one sent you one CV, and you call all the other agencies rubbish." And I'm like, "Are you surprised? Why would anybody work on these roles?" "Oh, no one's ever said that to me before." And I said, "I'll get you a proposal in the next half hour. Let me know what you think. If you need me to speak to your FD, I'll do it. But that's I'm asking for $2,500 deposit, so 12 grand fee. You told me you need 10 people over the next 18 months. I can do it. I've sent it.
Excellent.
Well, I'm waiting for it." And when you have all those things aligned, so pitch, your terms, and I guess the mental, to the mindset that you're not doing anything else, you can't fail, in my opinion, because you just keep talking to the people that need it and believe you. Somebody will go for it.
Yeah.
Nick, I have a question. So Nick, can I ask you a question, Nick?
Of course you can. Yeah.
So how do you sell it to the customer? What is the benefit for the customer between these two?
I don't sell it because I ask them questions around what's your situation. So the funnel will just take them to just them realizing that they need your help. Because if you sell it, they stop listening. So the guy yesterday, I just said, "How long have you been looking? How's it going? Who have you given it to? How urgent is this role? Have you got a job description? Have you got it signed off?" All the basic questions you probably ask every day to your clients, and just go, "Well, look, I've got the solution for you, but you've got to be on board with listening to what I'm going to do. I do this every day and I've done this a long time. It's up to you whether you want to go ahead or not, but this is what I think we should do." Blah, 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 blah. You tell them the process you're going to go through. You really understand what you're selling, you as an individual, right? How you're going to do it. You put it in writing. You put it in a simple one-page term. That's how I do it, with signed at the bottom with your name. So they just have to put their signature. Trust me, they'll go with that piece of paper to their FD and go, "Look, I want to fill these roles. I've found an agent. Can you just sign this off? It's been going on for too long. And can we just go ahead?"
Yeah. Nick, can I just interject it, because I'm getting people are questioning me, get some questions in. So just to manage this better, if you post your question in the box, and I promise you we'll come to you. So you post it in there rather than send it to me, because I'm trying to do all those. So questions, those that have sent them to me, can you post them in the box if you want to ask those questions? And just want to come back to just a couple of things you said there, Nick, that kind of really resonated with me. You said it right at the beginning that you didn't feel comfortable working on the retainer. It reminds me many years ago when I had my own recruitment business. My background is only retained, and we won some retained business. And I brought on a new consultant. I said, "I need to work on this assignment. It's all signed off and everything." And they worked on it and they delivered it. But she said to me afterwards, Samantha, her name was, she said she found it really uncomfortable working on that assignment because it was retained, because she had this fear of failure. That sort of thinking had never entered my mind before. You're nodding your head there. So this is a question for the rest of the room. For those that work contingency, they're willing going over to retained, is that a familiar feeling where, hell, if they pay me up front, I'm kind of really obliged now to Michelle saying yes? Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah. And I have to say, in my ignorance, I think Drew's the same. This is amazing. I had no idea that there is this discomfort.
Absolutely.
Don as well. I'm surprised. Yeah. So just think about your thinking and what's going on there. If you've got this internal, what if I get this and I don't deliver? What if I screw it up and I let the client down? Can you see how your mind's going to stop you from even asking for it? Because why are you going to ask for something that at some level you don't want to do? It's almost like saying, as a child, "I want some cod liver oil, please, Mum." It's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
Can you see the power of the mind there, where you're saying, "I've got to." Terry and Drew and the other guys are encouraging to ask something that I'm actually uncomfortable asking for and uncomfortable doing. And I know you're sick of this we keep talking about that, your mind and the power of the mind and so on, but here's a perfect example. You can't ask for that. If there's real discomfort, and you guys who haven't asked yet, understand what's going on. That's your stuff going on there. It's a really interesting point, Nick. And thank you everybody else for sharing that with me. And the other thing that you said, you didn't feel comfortable. Yeah. So the other thing that you then said a bit later on is explaining the difference. And one of the breakthroughs for you, Nick, was when you then said, I got the difference. So I'm going to ask you first of all, Nick, but I'm going to come to everybody else. Prior to that, did you appreciate the difference between the two? Retained, you didn't? Isn't that amazing?
I just thought it was so far away from what I could do. You know, I worked with people that, you know, done retained, and I didn't think I was up to it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't think I was good enough. I really didn't. And I think for me, I just went, I want to earn double, triple what I've been earning. So that was my shift. And I thought, you know, I want to do 50, 75K months. How am I going to do that? And this is the only way, in my opinion, that I could guarantee month in, month out. I mean, thanks to a couple of books you suggested, you know, Brian Tracy, you know, about dividing the year up into 12 weeks. That was a big shift for me, because I went treat, you know, the first 12 weeks, every quarter, like it's a year. You know, so you look at every single day how you perform. And I thought, okay, how do I do that? Well, then I win these retainers on a monthly basis. So I've got something to work towards, and I've got, you know, some of the revenue up front, and I know I can deliver on it. And I thought, what am I worried about? I've been working for 20 years, getting a role and beating other recruiters and getting paid and getting repeat business. Retained is a piece of piss compared to contingent. It's a piece of piss. Trust me. You can do fucking contingent, mate. You can do retain. And I can't believe I'm saying this. And I know you guys are laughing at me because, you know, 6 months ago, I was a completely different mind. But I promise you, if you can do contingent, retained is, for me, I'm more relaxed. I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying my job. And I'm making probably double what I was making before.
Nick, this is amazing. I'm not
bullshitting you. My first retainer was 60K, and it's hard work, but it's much more enjoyable because my client needs to come back to me, and he needs to give me feedback, because I'll just go, well, I'll keep the money, mate, because you're not playing ball. Not that that's happening. But...
I just wanted to interject there, Nick. Sorry, there's so much good stuff there. Mike, I want to come to you next. Mike Merrick, I want to come to you next. Some things, I'll come to you in a second. Just want to come to something else that you said, Nick. Again, there's some real gems in here. You said, don't sell it. And there's a massive lesson in there. Because the moment you get this, and we constantly talk about leaning into the sale and then leaning out. Because the moment you get this and you stop selling and you allow the prospect to buy. I'll repeat that. Stop selling and allow the prospect to buy. And Nick then said, which is just beautiful, it's the language, it's the questions that he's asked. See, if I ask Nick, if I ask any hiring manager, I'm curious, do you want the best guys, or do you want to get the 3 quickest guys, you know, who are lying about, or do you want the best guys? And you get the hiring manager say, oh no, I want the best guys. Do you want the cheapest candidates, or do you want ask those questions? Because we constantly talk about identity, and the moment the hiring manager talks about their identity, they're going to fight for that. See, if their identity is they want the best candidates from their competitors, they can't. It's impossible to say, oh, bloody hell, Nick, I can get this for 10% down the road, and these guys will let me pay in 120. They can't have that conversation with you. We will always fight for our identity. So the purpose of the question is to get them to share their identity. Look, all of us here, guaranteed, if we're talking to anybody, I had some guys around to give me some work on the garden. He gave me a quote. I said, can you give me any discount on that? Of course I'm going to ask for a discount. But would I say to him, and I trust him, the reason I trust him, because Drew knows him as well, I'm not going to turn him away. And he said no, and I'm okay with it. But your hiring manager thinks the same. We all want this discount. We think that's what we ought to do. But ultimately, we want the hiring manager wants the best candidates that are going to deliver. There's Pandy, I hope you've really got that message there. Don't sell anything. Ask the questions. There's a massive takeaway there. Nick, that was brilliant. I want to come to Mike, and I want to come to Michelle. Just some feedback on some of the things that we said so far. I'll start with you, Mike.
I think firstly, you know, without sounding patronising, it's a joy to see Nick in this state. He's up, he's confident. You just listen to the way Nick talks in terms of his confidence, his ability to deliver what he's got to deliver. The one question I have, Nick, is, and again, I think it'd be useful for some of the other guys on the call. Do you think if you are working on a retained basis with a client, that you can do a better job for them than if you were working on a contingent basis? And I'd be interested, firstly, the answer to that, and then secondly, the rationale behind that.
I mean, absolutely 100%. And the reason being is because you're working for them. And there's a relationship there because there's a trust element that they've given you that retained and they believe in you. As before with contingent, you're kind of dirty. You are a dirty recruiter. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but that's, you know, I'm proud to say now I'm a retained search recruiter, an executive search recruiter, whatever. And I tell people I bump into in the street, you know, mates or whatever, and they're like, oh, wow. I said, it's been hard, but I do it now. And they look at you in a different way because they know, you know, it's the top end of recruitment and it means you must be bloody good at what you do. And I can guarantee everybody that's on you know, on this Zoom now can do it 100%. So that's what drove me to do it.
Just a couple of questions, Nick. I just wanted to, you said you didn't bill anything for the whole of the first quarter. Just curious, well, two things. Yeah, how many job orders were you working on during that period?
Oh, 25, 20. Wow. You know, yeah. I mean, I was in a bad place, man. I was. Yeah. I mean, like. You know, I was bad. I mean, I've never been, but I kept exercising. I kept riding my bike. I kept doing all the other things. Got a big family, amazing support. You guys were great. But it was awful because, you know, I kept throwing the dart and it kept missing the board. And I was like, the board's just there, mate. What's wrong with you? And it was just, you know, and it wasn't necessarily, whatever. I don't know what it was. Well, I do know what it was, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't working for me and I had to change, you know.
Excellent, yeah. And just be careful, Nick.
I came to every session to listen and go, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I think that's the key, you know, is not to give up. Really don't give up. And I'm not a quitter. I've trained for marathons, you know, having never run more than a mile. And I did it, you know, in whatever time, 4 hours, but I trained and it's about applying. You're not going to lose weight overnight. You know, you're not going to get six-pack overnight. It is about going through these difficult times to really appreciate it. I know it sounds cliche because we always say it, but I'm very fortunate that I have a determined mindset to make it happen. And I think if you're on this Zoom today, then you must also, why would you give up an hour and a half of your time on a Thursday afternoon if you don't want to make those changes? So just taking
Nick, just a couple of things, Nick. Can I ask you to be careful with the metaphors because that's Tom's role for the metaphors. You use marathon, you use a six-pack, you use a dartboard. Can we leave the metaphors to Tom? Yeah, that's okay. Is that okay with you, Tom? Seriously.
Tour de force here, Nick. Today, I'm really enjoying this.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Drew, I'm going to go to you, and then we're going to come to you, Michelle. Yeah, I'll bring you a bit. So just to you, Drew, and then we'll go to Michelle.
Yeah. So another question I had was like. You said right at the start that you think, you know, the sort of the breakthrough, or one of the breakthroughs for you is when we done that role play and you got the, you know, you finally got, well, first of all, you got the difference between exclusivity and contingency. And then you got the actually clients don't, so I need to explain it. But I remember, so I'm not sure if you remember this, I remember a session that we did where there was a period of time where you were just like outwardly speaking badly about yourself. I'm not sure if you remember. And you said, at one point you said, I'm such an idiot. And you said it like several times throughout a couple of weeks. And I remember at one point, I think it was Terry or Michael, all of us, we called you out on it. And, you know, part of the thing sort of at that point is that you need to change your sort of self-talk, what you were saying to yourself at the time. So I was just curious, like, I guess, well, two things. One, what was your mindset at the time when you were going through that? And then two, what did you do to come out of it? Because you haven't, you know, now you're just like a different person.
I mean, I did, and I recognized it, but that's how I felt. You know, I guess at school I wasn't very academic. I'm not stupid, but I never did very well at school. So that's how I always used to sort of make people laugh. I suppose I'm the the joker in the class and whatever. What made me get out of it is I've got 4 kids. I live in London, and you know, there's no plan B. And I actually do enjoy what I do. And I think, you know, I'm late 40s and I still love what I do 20 years in. I've got a gift, and I'm very, very lucky to be able to do it. Honestly, it's not me making bullshit. It's exactly how I feel. And that's what got me through, you know, the support, you guys, the focus, and loving what I do. I think that you've got to love this, right? You've got to love recruitment, because it's not easy. And I think those things all together. And then when I got the first retainer, it was just, yeah, a magic. I was buzzing. I didn't do anything for a day, because I was just like, I just want to enjoy this moment. And that's the other thing, you know, I never ever celebrated a great month or a great win ever. And I celebrated that. You know, and I think that's another thing that we don't do as recruiters.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Nick. Michelle, just want to get your thoughts on something. I'll come to you next, Mike. That's okay.
Sure,
yeah,
sorry.
Michelle. Yeah. Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Yeah, so I mean, for me, I really suffer with that that sort of issue with getting a retainer and worrying about the delivery, really, which, you know, even on contingency for the last few years, I have had about a 50% return. I will fill 50% of the work that I will take, which is quite high in terms of contingency levels. But, you know, I have sold retained in the past. I've worked for a 100% retained company many years ago, but obviously subconsciously I've shirked away from it, because we've only ever dabbled in it and sort of won a few here and there, but predominantly, you know, my business has been contingent until, as you know, obviously earlier this year I just went, that's it, no more. I'm just going to pitch retained. And, you know, since that point, you know, as everything that Nick says resonates with myself. You know, I'm the same. I'm not a clever person. I'm not highly intelligent. I haven't got a degree or anything, but I do work really hard. And, you know, just delivering, as Nick said, really just working in partnership. And I have always been very good at controlling the process and working collaboratively with my clients, but it is a different ball game. You know, we're just getting pushed more and more down the PSL route, more and more down working with talent acquisition managers who, you know, no disrespect, but a lot of them are like 20 something, sweat behind the ears, don't have a clue on the roles that they're hiring. You're forced to put CVs on an ATS. You never get any feedback. You never hear back. You're just chasing. Fees are constantly being reduced. And like, you know, I mean, my fee over this last 3 months, I've billed more money in this last 3 months than I billed the whole year between 2019, so let's forget the pandemic year 2020, because that wasn't great for me. But you know, it hasn't yet been my biggest year, but if I do just a little bit more, it will be one of my best ever years in recruitment. From, like, you know, I'm in my fourth month if we start from when I first sold my first retainer. And you know, I'm working really hard, but I always do. And I always put a lot in, but I'm getting paid. I get the respect from my clients. They're coming to me for my thoughts, my opinion. You know, I'm having regular teams, and all of what Nick says is exactly the same, frankly. And yeah, I mean, I'm turning business down, although some of the people in my team still are doing contingent, so we're passing the work on that we don't want for them. They take it for now. But yeah, I mean, it's really sort of revolutionized everything, really. I don't know if you want me to say anything else.
No, that's Michelle, brilliant. Yeah, just that when Nick was saying a few things, you were nodding in agreement, so I was interested to get your opinion. Thanks so much. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, but I just want to say, I just want to say one other thing as well, because like when you do courses like this, you know, you hear from Mike, and not just Mike, you know, from Don and from Cody and from Tom, and you know, these people are getting like 40, 50 grand fees, and you're like, I'm getting £6,000 and I'm doing the same sort of work, you know, but okay, it's a much higher level role. And that for me, and I've said this before, even now, like some of my retainers are 15 to 20k, and already I'm going, that's not enough. I want 40k retainer because I shouldn't even be getting 20. It's not enough for me. You know, why am I? And it is because when you actually think about it and you break it down and you see the value that the client has and what you're actually doing for them on a retained search, it is actually, you're worth so much more. yeah, we're doing it for like 5 or 6 or 7K average fees. It's madness, really is. But that's my last.
Michelle, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, and again, I've said many times, whatever fees you're getting is just a reflection of your own personal self-worth. And listen to Michelle's language. I'm worth more than that now. Yeah. So Michelle can't help but want to go for bigger fees because of her own personal self-worth. And again, let me just check in. Are you getting this? Is this a value, what we're sharing with you? Just type yes or no in the box. If it's not, listen, if you've got any questions, let us know. Yeah. Some real great learns here. Mike, Mike Merrick, I want to come to you. And I'm going to come to Don Alexander, then we'll go back to Drew. And then Drew's going to ask you some more questions, Nick.
I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things that Nick said a couple of moments ago. I think it's like if you've got a goal in life, setting yourself a goal, an objective is one thing. Obviously, Nick's got a big enough why to get out there and to make it happen. You mentioned, his family, his home, where he lives. And if you've got a big enough why, that's going to drive you to do things that otherwise you might question your ability to do. But Nick's just gone on and done it because he's got a big enough driver behind him. And the other thing was interesting, and I don't know if anyone else picked up on it. He said, look, this is what I do. I have no plan B. And it's the story about the guy who went and burnt his boats. If you've got a plan B or a fallback situation, guess what? You'll fall back to your fallback situation. If you haven't, you'll make this work. And by having no plan B, Nick's turned it around and made it work on his terms, which I think is really, really important.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I'll just share something that Nick shared with us offline. One of Nick's wives is getting tickets for Wimbledon. He can't get tickets for Wimbledon, so that's a big driver for Nick as well. Trying to get tickets for the Wimbledon. So good luck with that, Nick. Excellent. Don, your thoughts, observations, and then back to you, Drew.
Yeah, I'll offer up 2 or 3 briefly. Number one is with Nick. Wow, what a mindset shift. I think the premise of just asking goes so far. You can offer up all the explanations in the world, and if you just ask, sometimes you'll get without having to go through a lengthy explanation. And I think Nick is living proof of that. There were a couple other points to Pandian's question. What is the benefit to the client in this model? And I think this goes to what the question Mike asked earlier. When I explain it, when I talk to a client about it, it's oftentimes tied to resource expenditure from the perspective that what actually happens when a contingency search starts. And that is that said agent searches their database for low-hanging fruit. That's what actually happens behind the scenes. I mean, if anyone else has a different opinion on that, I'd love to hear it. But that's what I had always done in contingency search. Who do I know that might, be a fit for said role? But what that leaves out is who I don't know that might be a fit for said role. And in order to do a comprehensive search, you have to research, right? And if you have to research, if you follow that logic, you have to expend resources to be able to do that custom tailored job for your client. So when we go into a retained search or engaged search, whatever you want to call it, when we ask for money up front, one of the things that I'll often find myself talking to the prospective client about is the fact that we're going to turn around some of that money that you pay us right back into paying for research, right? That's an outbound expenditure that we have. And a lot of times I find anyway that people gravitate to that. They'll go, I get that. I converted a client not too long ago that was on contingency in the last search we did into an engagement fee on this very conversation. And he even had a huge apprehension to it because he had been burned by a retained firm in the past. It wasn't a big fee inbound. I think it was $3,000 in this particular case. But I said, Peyton, look, this is, if you want us to do a comprehensive job, especially in a short time frame window like you're talking about, we got to do this, because here's what I'm going to do in the background. And he went, okay. So, I mean, again, I think that goes back to explaining the rationale to Pandian's question. The other thing I just wanted to touch on briefly is the concern I think that people have sometimes. I've had it before. I put yes to the question earlier about, not delivering. And there was a time 2 years ago where I took a retained search, again, well, an engaged search. Again, it was about a $3,000, maybe $5,000 retainer, but I didn't really understand the full scope of it. And I think this is a valuable lesson. In retrospect, I would have turned it down. But what I did was I took the retainer, we did all the research, called, emailed candidates, hundreds of them, hundreds. I could probably pull up the list now. I got to say it would be between 400 and 500 people. It was the lengthiest, most challenging, and part of it turned out to be the client themselves. But at the end of the day, what that taught me is that sometimes, even if it is a retained search, it's best to turn the business down. Because if you divide that by the number of hours that we actually, and resources that we actually put into that, that was a huge money loser, enormous. Okay. So if you're not sure about something in your market, if there's some little voice that's telling you, maybe this is one I shouldn't take on, sometimes it's wise to listen to that voice. And I should have listened to that voice back then, but I do it a lot better today. So.
Yeah, 100%. Really good point there, Tom. Thank you for that. Excellent. Excellent. Over to you, Drew.
Cool. So yeah, just to finish up on the mindset piece. Yeah, we just want to go into mindset, what you're doing on marketing, what you're doing in sales, and then also delivery as well. But just to finish up on the mindset piece for everyone else listening, really, like if you could sort of give, one piece of advice that you say, look, you need to, in terms of your inner game, you need to get this right. What would it be?
You're asking me?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, ask the question again. Sorry.
Well, if you had to give one piece of advice to people on this call, or anyone who was where you were, first quarter of this year, in terms of mindset, what would you want to say to them, or to your previous self, I guess?
I think you've really got to believe that retained is the way to do it, because it will come across in your pitch, it will come across in your energy on the phone or Zoom or however you're selling it. I think Jenny was a really good example where you had your first retained and you went, face to face, I think it was, and you were driven, you were determined, you weren't coming home without that retainer. That's a really good example. That was amazing. I was so pleased to hear it, that it happened. And I think hearing other people on this course doing and succeeding helped. It helped because I just thought they're doing it, and there's no other option to go and get that. And that's my advice, is believe that you can do it. So in the background, you need to have your pitch ready, you need to have your terms, you need to, make sure you go through the steps that the person you're talking to understands what you're trying to do, and that they are ready to commit, because otherwise you're wasting your time and you'll lose your confidence because you're like, oh, I'm no good at this. Well, hang on, who are you talking to? They're not ready. They were never going to buy in the first place. So getting all those things, which took me a while to get right, it's a no-brainer now, if that makes any sense.
Just to make sure, checking, does that make sense? Give me a yes or no in the chat box. Perfect. So look, I do want to sort of touch on your marketing, what you're doing from to generate these opportunities in the first place. Again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it seemed like anyway that you were, even before you came to us, you were getting opportunities. They were just but what if anything did you change on the marketing?
So a couple of things. I suppose I went back to old clients and said, oh, by the way, I'm retained now. Oh, right. What does that mean? Well, this is what I do. Well, we don't do it like that. I said, fine, let's keep in touch. And I didn't get upset that if they said no, and I just left it there and just dropped them an email just to explain what it meant. And I thought, if they're interested, they'll come back. And if they think I'm any good, they'll use me. And funny enough, a couple of them came back within 2 or 3 months and said, you know, this retained thing, can you just tell me a bit more about it? And I think just, you've got to get, you know, you've got to put your stall out and say, hey, I'm retained, and not expect for them to bite straight away. So that was the first thing I had to say to myself. You know, I think I'm an okay salesperson. I'm probably quite good at it, but you're not going to sell straight away. I don't want to sell straight away. That was the first thing, you know, I think you guys keep saying it. 2 or 3 months time. I don't want the roles that are live now. I want the roles in 2 or 3 months time or 6 months time. So I think that really helped. We outsourced, we used Tahir with Top Resource, I think and they just do the touch points and connect with, in my case, chief revenue officers or MDs and the technology. That's really helped because we're connecting with 50 to 100 people a week, and I'm calling them, and you know, I haven't sold a retainer on the back of that, but I'm having good conversations again in 2 or 3, 6 months time. I'm not too worried about that because my name's getting out there, and by the time I talk to them, they know who we are. I don't know if you want me to explain what the outsourcing is. I think most of us do it, but that really helped from a marketing perspective, and it's fairly reasonable. You know, it's 4 hours at $5 an hour and 5 days a week, which is about 500 quid a month, and they basically help get your brand out there, and that really helped.
Perfect. And yeah, I guess what else did you do? So how are you getting sales? How are you generating sales meetings at the moment? Is it just all past clients? Is it where are they coming from?
No, basically we work within the fintech and regtech space. So any business that's had any venture capitalist money within technology, software as a service, I follow those companies, and I'll just cold call them on the back of the outsourced connections, or yep. I'll just say, look, you've just had 50 million. I don't know if you're looking at the moment, but you know, this is what we do. I'm not expecting for you to buy from me now, but I just wanted to introduce myself and just do that reverse psychology of, I'm not selling, I'm just telling you, this is who I am. You may know who we are, you may not, probably haven't, but what's your email? And let's chat in 2 or 3 months time. And I do that. I try and do 10 to 20 a day. I don't always, but I love that. I love the challenge of somebody saying no and, you know, trying to turn it around. It's very satisfying, which is partly why I do this job. And I'm not selling, you know, I'm not going in, hey, use us, hey, use us. Not just saying, this is who we are, this is what we do, is it worth having a chat? And most of them go, well, we got it covered for now. I go, okay, but just so you know, we do retained 100 plus, you know, whatever my pitch is, 100K plus. Oh, right, okay, I didn't realize you did that. Look, you know, let's have another chat another time, and just push them back. I find that works really well because then you're more in control of the call. Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else that's working for you, particularly on the, you know, literally just getting the opportunities? We'll look at sales in a second.
Not honestly, no. I just pick the phone up and just call them. I find that's the best way. It's the only way I know.
Okay. Awesome. So okay, so look, let's talk about the sales. I think, you know, that for you was the biggest breakthrough. I've said before, you know, you were getting lots of opportunities anyway. You were just working on contingency and work within them. So it wasn't really about the marketing. It was more about, you know, when I get in front of the client, what do I say? How do I say it to get it across? And yeah, this is a part that, you know, from the outside looking in anyway. There was a period where, you know, you made a decision for yourself that you wanted to do retain, or you wanted to go down the exclusive route, but you just weren't unable to communicate to the client why they should do it, or, you know, why I should buy from you. So I guess, like, you know, we'll talk about the good stuff, what's working out in a second, but what were you doing wrong? I guess is probably a question I want to know.
Well, I didn't talk about it. I didn't say, let's do retained or let's do exclusive. I just didn't ask. I just didn't think I was good enough to ask. honestly. That you know, I never put it out there. I can give you an example. Last Tuesday, I had a face-to-face lunch with a client who lives around the corner from me. He would have laughed at me a year ago if I'd say, hey, I'm only doing retained. But we had lunch, and it was very, very, you know, we're mates, but we're not. I mean, he runs a pretty successful business. And he said to me, your delivery, you're a different person to you were 12 months ago. I believe you now. I believe that you can do retained. I want to give you the business because I know you can deliver it. And I think that's the difference for me that made me realize that I am probably a lot better than I think I am at doing this job. And I've got nothing to lose by asking.
Yeah, that is absolutely massive, that, isn't it?
It is.
Absolutely. No, yeah. And
I was buzzing when I got it signed today. You know, it's a sales director role. It's a big role. They could give it to anyone. And he just said, I like the way you did it. And I've got to go through, you know, FDs and so on. Yeah, it's just convincing them, coming across in a convincing way.
I think such a I think the other lesson for this, again, for all of us, I've said this before, nothing has any meaning but the meaning you give it. So Nick said he would have laughed at me if I'd asked him 12 months ago. Nick doesn't actually know that. That was the meaning that he was giving to what's going on. Yeah. Again, we all do that. You know, you go to call a client and they say, call me back at 10 o'clock. You call them back at 10 o'clock, I'm not there. You give that meaning. Oh, they're not interested. They're working with something. It's your stuff that's getting in the way.
Yeah.
The client didn't tell Nick that. That was his meaning that he gave to stuff. But the problem with it, you behave according to the meaning that you give stuff. And you need to be really careful of this. And sometimes how we react to something, and we say, yeah, it's what they've done. I just know by the way they're looking at me, or the way. It's your stuff that's going on there. Real massive lesson there. Absolutely massive. Thanks for sharing that, Nick.
No worries. Sorry, I've just got to go to the front door. I'm very embarrassed. Sorry. One of my kids.
Excellent. Just want to quickly just go around while we're waiting for Nick to come out. I want to go to Inez, John Riley. Just your learns, your takeaways so far. Inez John Riley, sorry, and Jeremy.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Well, everything's very, very interesting. And like I said, I could listen to these kind of talks all day because it makes you believe you can actually also do it yourself if you hear where people came from. And I think Jenny a while ago did a similar session, which was also great, just to hear where people, because when you get in the course, like we started 3 months ago, you didn't see the beginning of the people that are already successful then. So you don't really get that. So that's great to hear. And I also liked Jeremy's thing where he said, just chuck your contingency contract. It's basically like blocking your ex on Facebook. You don't really want to because you might meet him in the future, but you have to because he's not nice, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's better to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's a good one, Jeremy.
Yeah. Thanks, Inez. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, John Riley. Can't see you, buddy. Oh, hey, mate.
Well,
yeah, just your takeaways, please, mate.
What I got from Nick there was just a tremendous amount of confidence. I mean, you're just breathing the confidence there, Nick, and it does really come through. And I can really see it. Yeah, I mean, that non-sell thing is a really good sell, isn't it? You know, the people find it irresistible, don't they? No. But you've got to be really confident to do it. I mean, it's easy to say, it's harder to do. And I'm gonna do a bit more of that. I think that's really good. And I really liked the piece early on that I wrote down from Don. And there's an old saying, isn't there? If you can't explain it to a 7-year-old, then you don't fully understand it. You know, you have to be able to say something in a way that's really clear. And I think Don just put it in a way that I've never I've never been able to put it this clearly now. When he said the difference between contingency and assignment is who do I know against who don't I know? I mean, you know, absolutely. I mean, thank you for that, John. I'm going to use that one. I mean, it's right, isn't it? You know, and also, I think it was Michelle that said, you know, contingency is just generally not only who do I know, but, you know, they'll generally put an ad out, just filter the ones that come through, and that's it, isn't it? You know, filter the series that come through. Whereas assignment is a lot more work. And also, Don, what you said, I really agreed with. There are, even with assignment, there's a bit of on assignment business that I could have picked up that I decided not to pick up because, you know, you said if something doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. And you know, there was a role I was talking to. It was a role in mainland Europe, and I just knew that the person they were asking for was going to be were fishing in a very tiny pool, and it was going to be not an easy piece of business. And I think it was fine. I wanted to turn it down. So there you go. Confidence, explain it simply, and know when to turn business down. There you go. That's what I've got.
Takeaways, yeah. Excellent. Thanks for sharing, John. Thank you. Jeremy. Good morning, Jeremy.
Hey, good morning from Texas. You know, my takeaway for Nick hasn't been on this call, but I think it's been his path of progression here since I've been part of the Apex group. It's now been about 7 months, and I remember very clearly, you know, towards the latter part of last year, you know, you could tell Nick was not necessarily down or depressed, but almost frustrated with the market, because you could tell, and I didn't know him, but you could tell that he was good at what he did, and he just couldn't get the right clients on board where he could maximize his own success. And he started to slowly watch this transition. There was a bit of a nosedive there for him. But then I don't remember what it was, Nick, and I would love to hear your thoughts, but there was this catalyst that hit you, and you could tell, all right, you know, I don't really like retain, but I'm going to do it anyways because I don't really have another option. And there was a lot of resistance on your part, I think, to do it. And there was some slow progression, but then it started to kind of build some momentum. And now, you know, here we are several months later, and it's like, you know, Nick's been doing this his whole career. and the confidence and the acceptance and the ease of delivery for him, I can tell is massively better. And to, again, watch this transformation has been awesome. I've been a huge fan of yours, Nick, from day one, because I could tell at the root level that you were an expert in what you do and that you could truly be successful and deliver something different to your clients. And I'm glad that you now realize that and get other clients to realize that, because that's how you become truly wealthy. You know, the other thing is I love his approach going back to old clients and saying, hey, this is who we are and what we do now, take it or leave it. I think that type of attitude, whether it's an existing client or a new client, is going to serve everybody very, very well, because there's always this fear of loss. Whenever an initial pitch or presentation is made, people always fear that they're not going to be able to close that particular client. But the reality is, most people aren't going to close that stuff. So what? Move on to the next one. But don't be afraid to hold your standards high, because somebody will say yes. But, you know, don't just give up just to get the deal done. It may not even be a good deal. So, and then again, you know, Nick, I remember you telling me that you had, I think several clients actually call back and say, yeah, you know, okay, we'll do retain now. And I mentioned that in the chat earlier, is, you know, timing is a big part of this. You know, sometimes that initial pitch, the timing isn't going to be right for a retained search. And don't be desperate just to get something closed if it's not what you truly want. Sometimes you have to wait, and that wait may be several months or longer before they're finally ready to recognize the value that you bring. So those are my comments.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy. Good point there, Don, by the way. Yeah, good point. Back to you, Drew.
Yeah, just to pick up on something that Jeremy said. You know, he sort of said, you know, what was the catalyst for you? So I want you, if you think back to that first retainer that you won, yeah, I guess what happened in the weeks building up to that, because you said before you weren't even asking. So yeah, what was the catalyst? What was it that you thought, you know what, next time I'll go in? Was it the first time you asked that you got it?
No, I think what it was when I turned business down, when I made my decision that I was just going to do retained, and I had lots of roles that I could have filled, and it's when I said no, I'm not doing this in contingent. It's retained or nothing. And when I got that, when I pushed back, and they walked away, and then they came back, and I said, "Are we doing retained?" They went, "Yes." I was so pleased I'd made that decision, because all of us in contingent are like, we hate walking away. In effect, we think it's money. And when you understand that it's not money, because it's not a guaranteed placement or guaranteed, success. When that clicked for me, then everything else came along, understanding the difference, getting my pitch, getting the terms. But it was that with just pushing away and saying, I'm not, there's 20K there or 5K or whatever, I'm not doing it. And that was the catalyst for me, because when they came back and said, all right, we believe you're really good and we think you can do it, that just snowballed. It was hard, but it was obviously worth it.
Yeah, actually, can we just go to Jenny just to hear your thoughts, feedback? I know you went through a sort of similar time journey at a similar time. Just want to hear your thoughts, feedback on what you've heard from Nick so far.
Yeah, so I mean, I can resonate with a lot of it, because, like you say, I think me and Nick were very much in a similar place, but back at the beginning of the year. And you do self-doubt a lot, and you think, oh, I'm never, I'm never going to be able to ask for a retainer. I'm never going to be able to say, we want at least exclusivity. And you keep telling yourself and telling yourself and telling yourself. And then I think, like what Nick's gone through, you just literally get the balls and you think, right, no, this is it. I'm going to do it. And then the first time you've done it, and you think, well, it just spurs you on. You think, well, why not? And it's like the whole thing with the fee, when you get that little bit of money up front, you've got that commitment, which makes you put more effort into it. And then you start getting more picky with people that come in, you start talking to the people about more business and they won't agree to anything you want. And it gives you the confidence to start saying, no, but that's not how we work. That's not what we do. And I think sometimes, that you've said it to me before, Terry, you can get that Superman thing, whatever it's called. Superman status or something, and I think you can get like that, but you've just got to have confidence in yourself. You've just got to believe in yourself, believe in your model, believe in your business, and I think it all slots into place eventually. But in terms of contingent, I mean, I don't get it anymore. I know obviously there's people here that still do it, but it's just such a waste of time. I had a call today actually with a chap. And I said, this is how we work. And he said, oh, I've spoken to a few more agencies. I said, how many more agencies have you got on it? And he said, 10. I went, okay, bye-bye then. And that literally was it. And what makes me laugh, he's the COO of the business. And he said, it's the CEO that he just will not budge. And he said, I totally get what you're saying. And I went, yeah, I said, it's a shame. I said, but I said, good luck. Wish you all the best.
10 recruiters on one job order. Oh.
He even said, because I said, do you know how much shit you're going to get thrown at? And he went, Jenny, I already am. I went, well, good luck.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it really is a game changer.
Excellent. Thanks, Jenny.
Bill, Blair's going to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, unbelievable session. Great work, Nick. It's I think I echo a lot of people's thoughts in terms of just the energy and the confidence that is, I guess, sort of buzzing through Zoom. It's great to see, and for someone like myself, personal takeaways being what it sounds like, where you were a few months ago. It's the confidence and I guess the willingness to crack on now. So it's been a really eye-opening session. Thank you.
Good stuff. Again, so I asked a question around mindset, but Nick, if you look at the sales aspect, what would be the one thing that you want people to take away in terms of how you actually put that across and communicate it to the client?
You're asking me, sorry. Well, sorry, mate, what was the question?
So I asked a similar question around mindset, but in terms of the sales aspect of what you're doing, again, if you could go back and give yourself advice or give people on this call advice, maybe where you were, what would you, to sum it up, what would be the thing you say around there?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Well, basically, I suppose for me, it all started with what was my goal? How much revenue did I want to make, monthly, quarterly, yearly? That's really where it all started for me, to say, okay, if I can do this, what's to say I can't do double? And you hear about these million pound recruiters and so on. I'm like, what have they got that I haven't got? And I think that's where it all started for me. And I love somebody saying you can't do that, because I'm going to go and show them that I can, because that's just the way I am. And I think if we're all like that, then that's certainly the start of it. So then it was just about putting things in place that need to make it happen. So where do I start? Or how do I pitch? So I would say the most important thing is get your pitch right. If you get your pitch right, the rest will come in, because they'll either buy or they won't. Does that make sense? Like, it's a numbers game. There's no beating around the bush. Not every call you get, you're going to get a deal. And I think if you're prepared for that mentally, and you can keep saying you're good at what you do, and, be as well prepared as you can, meaning on the call and knowing about the business, it works. For me, the outsourcing, so that they've had 2 or 3 touch points by the time I call them on the 10 before 10s, it helps. So it won't happen overnight. And I thought it could, because that's how contingent works. Hey, do you need, oh, you got a role, great, send us a spec, let's go.
Yeah.
It's not like that. And that took me a long time to understand. I don't know if I'm answering your question and that helps, but
yeah.
Because I think as soon as I realized that it wasn't going to happen straight away, then I went, okay, chill out, just keep doing what you're doing. Somebody will bite, and when they do, you've got them. So you can pretty much guarantee whatever that fee is going to come in. And that for me, all of you that are not able to do that, when if you can believe that's going to happen, keep believing it will happen.
Awesome, Nick.
So a question here from Hamjan said, so the big benefit I can think of for the client is that the retainer model, the client effort is less, fewer candidates to interview, and they get higher quality candidates. So yeah, Nick, I want to come to you on your feedback on that. Before I do that, I'll sort of give my point of view. So yeah, Hamjan, yes. I think I'd also go back to what Don said earlier about the level of search, right? But I think sometimes I like with the retainer model, I like putting the retainer to the side and just thinking about the exclusivity, because that's where the real benefit is for me. Because if they, again, assuming they want the best candidates in the market, right? If they don't want the best candidates, or they're not committed to even hiring, then retained or exclusive isn't the right way to go, right? But assuming you want to provide a good service to people who actually want the best, assuming you want to work with people who are committed, then there's lots of benefits to exclusivity, because if they want the best candidates, a big part of it is you send, like, one, doing the full search of the market, obviously, but you doing the full search of the market and then sending the candidates to them exclusively is a massive, massive benefit. With contingency, the emphasis is always going to be on placing the candidate. Regardless of who it's with, the emphasis is on placing the candidate. With retained with exclusivity, the emphasis is always on filling the vacancy. It's very different. You now have to commit to the client and delivering results the client wants, right? Which is why, in general, when people go down the exclusive routes, their fill rates go from 15, 30%, 50% to 90% plus. So it's a question of, do you want to have a service that has, if you've got a 30% fill rate, then you've got a 70% failure rate. Like, do you want to have a service that, most of the time you're not delivering on the promises that you're giving to clients? Or do you want to have a service that actually most of the time you're delivering the results? Nick, anything you add to that? And Mike as well.
What do you say, Drew, can you repeat that? Emphasis in contingency is what?
So contingency, the emphasis is going to be on placing the candidate. That's your goal as a recruiter.
I see.
Right? You get a candidate, anywhere I can place this candidate is a win for me. I don't care whether it's with client A, client B, client C, I don't care. So I'm going to send that candidate to all three and, you know, effectively create competition. With exclusivity, and, you know, let's say retained as well because they've paid for the exclusive part, the emphasis is on filling the vacancy with that client. So I'm just looking out for client A. I'm going to actually turn down client B and client C because, you know, I don't need to work more job orders now just to get paid. I'm going to focus on client A. So the service goes, level of service dramatically increases.
Yeah, and just to let you know, Andy, what I've done is I've just emailed you a document. I'll load it in the group as well, but there's a document that lists some of the benefits, and it's got to be the benefit to the client. If you can communicate the benefit to the client, that's when you're gonna get the buy-in. If it's about, hey, it helps with my cash flow, the client doesn't really care. You know, it's got to be beneficial to the client. That's what the communication's got to be all about.
Yeah, Nick, Mike, anything you'd add to that?
I mean, I think the document I think Terry's about to send, where explains the difference. I think I mentioned it earlier, which was a big turning point for me when I saw the document and it said contingent versus retained, and it summarizes the benefits, you know, of retained versus contingent. If you put that in your pitch and you deliver it, making sure your client fully understands the difference. If they are seriously hiring and they are sick of being interviewing 10 people a week and they're not relevant, and you can, it's not selling, it's just explaining to them what the benefit of having that retained search, taking the headache away, they'll bite your arm off if you do it well. If you do that, you can't fail. If you fail, it's because they're either not really serious, or they're not the decision maker, or you've done it badly, right? But you can't fail if they're buying, you do a good pitch and you're convincing. And that's what took me a while to get, but you know, you just got to keep trying, and it will happen.
I think if you get the pitch right and you explain it, and they want, you know, again, assuming they want the best candidates, they'll go exclusive with somebody. It's just a question of whether it's you or not. Exactly. Right? I think if you're losing out to, you know, in a sales pitch and they've gone contingency, it's either they didn't want the best candidates in the first place, you know, which is fine, or you haven't done quite, you know, a good job of explaining the difference. Because when you explain it, it's not selling. It's like, well, which one do you think works best? And they'll tell you. Exclusive.
And fees don't even come into it. Fees don't even. I mean, so far they've just, you know, what do you charge? I mean, I've stuck at 20%. You know, I'm ready to move forward, but it's not even about the money. It's just about, are you going to take it away from them?
And there's a lesson there for everybody as well. And especially for you, Nick, if nobody's pushing back on your fees are too low. Yeah. There's a message there. Yeah. It's called price elasticity. You've got room there to increase those fees. So I would encourage you to put.
Sorry,
I missed that.
This is my next challenge.
Ask for 21. Just make a commitment. Ask for 21. Just make it 21. If anybody says anything, say, "But yeah, we're talking about 1%. It is more than 1%, but it doesn't matter. We're talking about 1%."
Yeah, Mike.
Even with your old clients.
Sorry, Drew.
Anything you'd add to what's been said on that?
I think what I find is when you're working on a retained basis, you've got a far better relationship with that client. You've got better lines of communication with the client. The client will return your calls. There's more, you know, part of this for me is if I'm going to work with somebody, I want a commitment from whoever I'm going to work with me. And part of that commitment is working on a retained basis. And I think you find throughout, if you're working a retained project, communication lines are far more open. You get closer to that client. You're delivering a better service. You're delivering a better quality of candidates, and that just builds your credibility with that individual. And if it's, you know, if it's one individual within a larger company and you deliver that job, that's a great point of reference for you to then leverage that relationship to other parts of the business. So I think there's, I mean, touched on many benefits, and that, you know, a benefit to you as a recruiter is better engagement and better relationship with your clients.
Yeah. I want to go to Mr. first and Christian to get your feedback, and then any questions, put them in the chat box now, and then we'll wrap up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Musa. Yeah.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. So the feedback for me is this has been a brilliant session. And from what I can see, the key areas are confidence, being confident in your ability to deliver. Don't sell. So basically, find out the pain points, let them tell you what's going wrong with their existing methods and strategies, and then basically give them how you can actually help them rather than selling. And I think for us, the whole thing in changing the mindset is so vital. And I think high levels of activity. The other thing from what I can see from Nick is the high level of activity, consistent high level of activity yields results, because that then gives you the confidence to believe in yourself when you're actually speaking to clients. You know, you can have one bad day or one good day, but consistently going at it every single day builds up that confidence for you. So I think that's the takeaways I got from this.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. And go to Christian. Before you ask Christian, just want to answer Panjang's question. Is retained always also exclusive? Depends on the, you know, in general, it depends on the agreement that you have in place with the client. Normally, whether you said exclusive in the contract or not, it will be, because they don't want to go and pay. You know, they've paid you to do the search, right? So they're not going to work with another firm because they're going to waste their money. So normally, just by default, it's exclusive, but without it necessarily being in the contract, but not necessarily. So it depends on the agreement, is I guess the short answer. But yeah, normally a lot of people don't have it in their agreement, but it's still just by default exclusive.
If you think in some cases, let me just check with Mike. What's the biggest retainer you've ever got, Mike? ISB retain, just retainer.
First stage payment.
Yeah, first stage. Yeah.
Would be, I'm just doing a mental conversion from about 35,000.
Right. So you can appreciate the client's unlikely to pay that to somebody else as well. If they paid you 30,000, they're unlikely to say, "Yeah, I'll pay that to a few other recruiters as well." Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I think there's also, again, we've on that one, we've got a client that we work with. Most of the stuff that we do is pure search. They on two particular roles, they wanted to advertise them because it was part of their PR. So what we'd agreed with them is that they would advertise. They would pay us both first and second stage payments on the two roles, and they would only pay the third stage payment if one of our candidates was placed. So out of the two roles, we filled one, got full fee on that, and we got 2/3 of the fee on another role. And there's been other instances where a candidate's saying, "Okay, we have internal candidates, and we're also going to advertise." And the position I adopt with that is, okay, let me interview your internal candidates. Let me interview people who respond to your ad. So you're getting an interview report based on, you know, an interview structure that's identical for each of them. So you can then compare your internal candidates, my candidates, and the candidates from the ad. And again, you've got to manage that. Otherwise, you can get your fingers burnt.
Yeah. And the other advantage of doing that, you can't, you know, there's as the outsider, you're going to be. My argument used to be, I'm going to be more objective about this than the internal candidate being interviewed by the internal team initially. No, I'm going to be totally objective. So, most hiring managers, in fact, every time I did it as a recruiter, the hiring manager goes, "Yeah, sure." I've never had any pushback on that ever.
Christian, what's feedback? Then we'll wrap up.
Yeah. Hi guys. Hi everyone.
Hi Christian.
Nick, amazing session, mate. It's beautiful to see your mindset and really good advice as well. And to me, it's pretty clear. I mean, also as a boutique agency, is the only way to go. Because I mean, in case of like particular case, Nick, you got double of experience that I got, and you were talking already at the beginning of the session about stress and what makes you changing from contingency to retain. And I can see that very clear that I got 10 years of experience in recruitment, not even that. And for me, it's the only way to go, retain or exclusive, because contingency, being a massive recruitment agency, yes, you can do that. You can put a small junior recruiter to do all those contingency roles. But, we are only two, Leo and me, so it's the only way to go. It's pretty clear.
Awesome. Yeah. And from your point of view, Chris, what's been your biggest takeaway? Just very quick before you answer, I've been doing this for a number of years, and one of my biggest takeaways is what Nick said at the very beginning about I feel uncomfortable actually doing retaining. Whether I mean, I experienced it once, but I didn't know it was a universal kind of thought. So that was a massive takeaway for me. What was it for you?
For me, the biggest takeaway is the things take time. That sometimes you need to breathe, keep working, keep being consistent, and things will come. It's not a matter of days or even weeks. Sometimes to convince someone or, to have that great relationship with a client, it takes several months sometimes to get that massive deal. So it's all about the mindset and things take time. So, for me, is the biggest takeaway I take today, and especially for my personality, relax a little bit, keep working, and things will come.
Thanks for that, Christian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, question from Hamjan. Again, if you've got any questions, let them know in the chat box. Is retained applicable only for anyone done it for contract roles? I don't know about retain. Well, I'm sure there will be someone who's done it. I don't know about anyone in this group who's done it for contract roles. I know what people have done, other people have done is exclusivity for contract roles. So we'll get on exclusive. I think because often the market moves a lot quicker, rather than waiting for the first stage payment to start the search on a contract role. He said he preferred to do it exclusive so they could start straight away. But again, with everything, there's no rules. If you want to do it that way, ask the client, see what they say.
Yeah, here. I'd endorse that. One of our managers, your business, your rules. So if you want to do it on the retained on contract, why not? If you can communicate the benefit to the client and them paying you a percentage of the fee up front and working exclusively, why not? There's no reason whatsoever. Your business, your rules. If they say, well, nobody else does that, say, I know, but nobody else is as good as us. That's why. Just dismiss it. Any other questions? No? Nick, thank you so much for that, buddy. Really appreciate that. And your honesty and just sharing everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So a massive thank you. Yeah, and inspirational, absolutely inspirational. I really hope you get those Wimbledon tickets after that, buddy. If I can help it.
Keep trying. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll jump the fence. Terry, you can come with me. Thank you for having me, by the way. It's been
fantastic.
Really fun.
Absolutely fantastic. Awesome. And yeah, somebody said inspirational, awesome, fantastic. And I don't know how many times I've been doing this for a number of years, and I learn virtually every single time I come on these calls. I learn something new. It's just been absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much indeed. Join us tomorrow for Triage Feeder at 1500 UK time. Again tomorrow. We've got the Monday Momentum on Monday, and of course the clinic on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So join us tomorrow. Until next time, folks, take care, take action, and be relentless. Cheers, folks.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.